Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. One of the world's most magnificent birds of prey, as well as one of the most endangered, is the Peregrine Falcon. Formerly, this bird was widely distributed here in the mountains of the northeastern states, and also here in the Rocky Mountain states. Now they're gone in the east, and all that remain here in the Rockies are about 30 breeding pairs. Primarily responsible for the peregrine's drastic decline is the pesticide DDT. Insects which have ingested DDT are eaten by small birds, which in turn are eaten by peregrines. The DDT accumulates in the peregrine system, causing the shells of its eggs to become so thin that they break during incubation. Dr. Tom Cade of Cornell University initiated and now spearheads a project which is proceeding under the United States Department of the Interior to bolster the dying population in the West and restore a breeding population in the East. This is being supervised by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service with 4 peregrine recovery teams. One of the places where the Western program is occurring in cooperation with the Colorado Division of Wildlife is in Colorado, here among the stark cliffs of the Rocky Mountains. This is where the rare peregrines have established their eyries, or nests, and where the field portion of the project is occurring. Bill Heinrich and Dan Conkle are ready to begin the first phase of that job, collecting peregrine eggs from an eyrie on the face of this cliff. These eggs will be taken to Fort Collins for incubation. Some of the chicks hatched there will be returned to peregrine eyries for direct fostering. Others will be placed in the eyries of the closely related but not endangered prairie falcon, a technique called cross-fostering. It is that process we'll see today. Going after eggs on cliffs such as this, as Bill Heinrich is preparing to do now with the aid of Dan Conkle, is work requiring considerable skill and nerve. The nesting peregrine falcon is aware of Bill's approach. He won't return so long as Bill is in the vicinity of the cliffside eyrie, but will almost certainly continue to circle about in powerful, graceful flight. There is only just enough space on the ledge to kneel, and the thin-shelled, cinnamon-colored peregrine eggs are well within his reach. Since the shells are very thin and the eggs break easily, precautions have been taken to prevent this. The eggs are gently placed in a foam rubber padded compartment of this special case. The eggs become very fragile when the DDT accumulates in the parent bird's body to the point where normal calcium production for forming eggshells is diminished. This is only one of 10 peregrine eyries in Colorado from which the eggs will be taken for artificial incubation. Almost certainly, if they were not taken, the fragile eggshells would be accidentally broken. Climbing up is much more difficult than going down, requiring great care and coordination to avoid mistakes. Even then, it's a painful inch-by-inch process. Taking the eggs so they can be incubated artificially in Fort Collins helps increase the peregrine falcon population. In most cases, the bird will lay another clutch of eggs in the same cliffside eyrie within a few days. The first phase of the operation has been successful, and the second begins immediately. The eggs are placed carefully in a portable incubator to be taken as quickly as possible to Fort Collins, As soon as they arrive there, they're put into a permanent incubator. Bill Burnham, the lab director, becomes responsible for their care, placing them in the permanent incubator with other Paragan Falcon eggs in various stages of development. After hatching, the chicks are fed frequently by Bill. Here in the lab, the diet of pureed quail fed to them is equivalent to what they would be fed in the wild. These chicks were hatched here about a week ago and have been marked with spots of dye on top of their heads to identify individual birds. Eventually, these peregrine chicks will be raised in the wild by foster parents. The next phase of the Paragan Restoration program is to find a new home and foster parents for the peregrine chicks. To do this, a prairie falcon eyrie has been found with 3 chicks, which have been removed and relocated. They will be replaced by laboratory-hatched peregrine chicks of similar size by Bill Heinrich over there on the far ledge, who will place only 1 chick in the eyrie at first. Bill is ready to descend to put the peregrine chick into the eyrie, and I'll be able to watch that operation from here. Because of the crumbly rock on this cliff where the prairie falcons have established their eyrie, descent is treacherous. The ledge is not far down, and it's important that as little time as possible elapse during the exchange of chicks. The female prairie falcon is still circling nearby, which means she has not abandoned the site. That's exactly what is necessary if this phase of the operation is to succeed. If this chick, which was hatched in the Fort Collins lab, is accepted by the parents, then 2 other similar-sized peregrine chicks will be added to this eyrie. It's important that the chick be very visible without any human still in view to cause the wary parent birds to stay away. As soon as Bill has safely returned to the top and quickly moves away, that's my cue to get out of sight and observe from inside the blind. This blind was established here some time ago, and the birds have become accustomed to its presence near the eyrie. The female prairie falcon seems to be in no hurry to return to the nest. From the blind, I can watch the peregrine chick in the prairie falcon's eyrie, and I'll also be able to observe the reaction of the foster parent when she returns. We'll soon know whether or not she accepts it and brings prey for it to eat. She's returning now, descending a little for a closer look at the chick. Even though the female has landed, that's no guarantee she'll feed and care for a chick which is not her own. But the situation quickly brightens. The male prairie falcon has returned and has come to the ledge without hesitation. He has a ground squirrel. Though the female takes it, she still seems undecided about accepting and feeding the chick. The male is apparently going to continue circling close by, and while his flight is beautiful to witness, what is important is the action occurring at the nest. The female prairie falcon, by feeding the Paragan Falcon chick, has definitely accepted it. The cross-fostering is working. Even the male, still soaring nearby, is assuming protective duties. Not far away, a young horned owl, deadly predator of falcon chicks, has blundered into this territory, and without hesitation, the male prairie falcon swoops to attack. The young owl is safe now that the falcon is heading away. The ground squirrel being fed to the chick by the female prairie falcon will not last very long. Young falcons require considerable amounts of food, so the adults will hunt almost constantly to provide enough for them. When a flock of pigeons appears some distance away, they're in real jeopardy. They've been spotted by the circling male prairie falcon. It's obvious that the prairie falcons will provide well for the adopted chick. Now the other two peregrine chicks can be added to this eyrie, and the likelihood is good that they'll all survive, and by breeding, help restore the peregrine population. The Paragan Restoration program in the East is an entirely different operation. Since the peregrine is extinct in the East, subspecies of peregrines have been brought in from other regions. They are housed at Cornell University in a building with individual compartments, which are long and narrow and have platforms built in them where the mated pairs lay their eggs. To assure hatching, the eggs are taken away immediately and placed in closely monitored incubators by Jim Weaver, who is a technical associate at Cornell University. At the end of a month, they begin to hatch, and if any assistance is required, Jim provides it with gentle care. For a short period after the hatching, the nesting falcons are kept in the lab and very closely attended. They are fed by hand, and as soon as it's determined that they are healthy and doing well, they are returned to the parent birds to be fed in a more natural manner by them. This situation continues until the young birds are 10 days away from being able to fly. Today, some of the fledglings have been placed aboard this helicopter to be flown to one of the sites where many years ago the peregrine falcons nested naturally. It is the aim of this program to reestablish a breeding population there. The destination is a high cliff in the Green Mountain National Forest of Vermont. Historically a very important eyrie site, wild peregrines have not nested here since the 1950s. The idea is to accustom the young birds to this area during the next 10 days so that when they begin to fly, they will accept it as home territory. Biologist Steve Sherrod of Cornell University is in charge of release operations. As soon as he arrives on the site with the young peregrines, they are taken to the cliff. There, a construction called a hack box with a screened and barred front provides a clear view of the valley below. The biologists have attached to each of the young falcons brought here a dummy transmitter and antenna. When they're accustomed to it, and just prior to the release, an actual radio telemetry transmitter, identical in size and weight, will be placed on each young falcon, and from that point on, the bird can be closely monitored. There have been encouraging results already in this program. In earlier operations here, the young falcons which were released have remained in the area and are seen regularly. In order to feed the birds which have been placed in the hack box, a feeding chute is used through which quail carcasses may be dropped without the fledglings associating the food with humans. After 10 days, the fledglings confined in this hack box will have become quite well oriented to this view of the valley and mountains. That's when they can be given their freedom. During the next 10 days, the fledgling Paragan Falcons in the hack box were fed regularly and not disturbed. When that interval had passed, I went to the Green Mountains to observe the release of the birds and joined the man in charge of both Western and Eastern Paragan programs, Cornell University professor Tom Cade.
Our plan is to saturate small regions with juvenile birds until pairs are eventually formed and local breeding populations become established. The young peregrines have been here for 10 days and are fully feathered and capable of flight. Steve Sherrod is attaching the real radio telemetry transmitter to the falcon's leg and activating it so that they can monitor its signal. The birds to be released will be able to fend and hunt for themselves in about a month. It's important that the bird leaves the box of its own volition. Now it's time to let them out and give them the same freedom that this earlier released peregrine enjoys. The front of the hack box, with its bars and screening, which kept the falcons in and predators out, yet allowed the birds to see the terrain, is now removed and taken away, allowing the birds free access to the outside. When that is done, the humans have to get out of sight before the fledglings will leave the box. As soon as they do, one young bird begins to emerge and becomes aware of the fact that it is now free. Before very long, the young bird will begin to fly. An earlier released falcon from the same hack box flies in now and lands very close to where the fledgling bird has emerged. It appears curious about the younger one. All the transmitters worn by falcons on their legs broadcast on different frequencies, so it is no problem to locate the whereabouts of a specific falcon simply by setting the receiver to the correct frequency and homing in on the pulsating signal. The falcons can be tracked at rest as well as in flight. The radio telemetry signals received thus far from the released birds show they are staying in this area. This is an indication that they consider this their home territory. Although food will continue to be left for them at the hack box, they will return less often as their hunting skills improve. The work here has clearly shown that it takes only a short while for the hunting instinct in the young falcons to develop to the point where they are making their own kills. They frequently hunt in the valley below here, where there are some marshes and ponds inhabited by young ducks like these two hen mallards. As soon as prey like this is spotted by the falcon, it swoops low in an attempt to frighten and flush the inexperienced ducks into flight. It seldom fails. Since ducks often become its prey, another name for the peregrine is duck hawk. Peregrines, just as all other predators do, play an important role in the balance of nature, and this young falcon has begun fulfilling that role very nicely.
Now that we've seen the young falcons actually catching their own prey, it's reasonable to assume they can survive on their own. These birds will leave this area in the fall, and we hope some will return here as mated adults to nest and lay eggs and raise young. When that happens, it will mean that Tom Cade's project for reintroducing the Paragan Falcon in the eastern United States is a success. Environmental contamination is still a problem. However, in the western states, the peregrine population seems to be finally holding its own as a result of the fostering of young peregrines to wild adults. All the ramifications of cross-fostering are not yet known. Nevertheless, chances are good these birds will survive. In the east, the reintroduction is moving along very well. Perhaps soon the peregrines will begin breeding again in the eastern United States. The dedication of biologists of various state and federal agencies and personnel of Cornell University working together to preserve the peregrines is a stirring story of conservation at its best. With this program, it appears that the magnificent peregrine falcon is being pulled away from the brink of extinction and back into the realm of the wild kingdom.